Hey everybody, this is Steve. Just a quick update on the last project I just commented on, the website blog analysis project, and a little bit of a rundown of where we're going as we head into the last turn of the class of the semester. Um, for the most part, in terms of the website blog assignment, I thought people did some pretty interesting things. There was a few common threads in terms of shortcomings, problems that I wanted to highlight because some of these might be some things to think about as you revise one of these projects at the end. The first one is that whenever you introduce a quote, whenever you introduce evidence from someplace else, you need to explain where that's coming from. You need to provide reference the first time you mention it, who the author is, and you need to properly cite that and quote or paraphrase, all that kind of business. This is very basic freshman comp kind of stuff, so I don't really feel like I need to explain that in much detail, but it seems like a lot of people were having a hard time doing that this time for whatever reason. Um, if you weren't that familiar with the reading because you didn't necessarily read it that closely, I mean, I'm talking about the reading for this unit, then that would obviously be a problem. And that was a shortcoming for some people, is that it didn't necessarily look like they had done the reading, and that probably hurt them on the grade. But you want to think about that as you include evidence in these revisions that you're doing from other sources. Remember, imagine a reader who might not necessarily have read all of the information that you're talking about there. When you say blah, 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 Smith, and we don't know who Smith is, that doesn't necessarily help us a whole lot. The second thing is use examples. This came across a lot in this blog assignment where people would say things like, "The style of this blog is friendly," or something like that, and then it wouldn't actually have any examples of what would be an example of what you meant by friendly, right? So you want to think about that again, also in terms of revision. The last thing I want to mention, and this is I'm not exactly sure why this came up this time, but I saw this in a couple of people's projects, is you might want to one way to start with a revision is to think about it in terms of doing what I call a reverse outline. Now, with any luck, over this shoulder, you're seeing some pictures of this. But here's what I suggest. First thing you want to do is take out a sheet of paper, and on this sheet of paper, start making an outline based on the essay that you wrote, not like the essay that you plan to write, but the essay that you actually wrote. So put your essay over here, and the essay that your outline over here. So you have two different things going on there. You'll see what I mean over. Wait a minute. Over here. It's hard to see with this camera. So, anyways, and write on this sheet of paper a sentence for every paragraph in your essay. Okay. Now, what you're doing there is you're making an outline of what it is that you act. Oh, and the sentence for each paragraph in your essay should be essentially the topic sentence of that paragraph. Okay, what you think that paragraph is about. Because remember, every paragraph should be basically one point. Now, what you're doing there is you're making an outline in reverse. You're making an outline not of what you planned to do, but what you actually did. And there's a couple things that you can hopefully get from that outline. The first thing that you might get is if it turns out you have a hard time writing one sentence about each paragraph, then there's a pretty good chance that you actually have more than one paragraph in that paragraph. So you might want to go through and try to work that out. But the other issue is that you might have, if the ordering of the paragraphs doesn't make sense, that is, if the numbering seems odd, then there's a pretty good chance that the numbering for within the essay itself is kind of odd too, and you might want to use that as a way to rearrange it. So essentially what this reverse outlining process does is take inventory of what it is that you've actually accomplished. Okay. Now, onto the revision project properly here. By Monday, you now have comments and grades from me for the style YouTube style project, the style remake project, and the website blog analysis project. So for the last project, you need to pick one of those three essays to revise. You need to post on your blog about what essay you're going to revise no later than the end of the day on Monday, this Monday, which would be August 12th. Okay. Now, if you look at, so make sure that's step number one, is you've got to pick what you're going to revise, and you need to stick with that too. So don't, change it at the last minute, as it were. Now, if you look at the schedule for the last part of the class, and I'm clicking on this right here on my computer, you'll notice that I purposefully have kind of like front loaded the class so that the last week and a half, and that's right, it's just a week and a half, of the class is really just about a matter of wrapping up this last project and wrapping up the final, which we'll talk about a little bit next week. The final is very low key. So really, it's just a question of figuring out what you're going to revise and working on it. I'll set up peer review groups, and you'll be able to start that no later than Wednesday of this week, and then you'll be able to finish up the peer review for this last project by Friday of this week. And then we'll start talking next week a little bit about the final, about the last blog projects, about the last participation grades, about the final, and about the last revision essay project, and also about the infamous end of time, which is going for the class. So we're rushing towards the end here. So this is one of those parts of the class where there's not going to be a lot of action in terms of discussion on the class website, which is fine, but this is your opportunity at the end here to get your ducks in a row on this last project. Make sure your blog posts are done, and make sure you take a look at the final, which has been posted on the EMU Online site since really since class began. So, okay, we're getting close to the end. All right, get busy on the revision. Okay, talk to you later.